Hello, everybody. It's Mark Sage, the Executive Director of the area, and we're here with our latest Fireside Chat. Our Fireside Chats are where we speak to some of the industry experts about what they're doing, how they're driving the industry forward, and getting those insights and little snack bites. And today, I'm very lucky to be with Kristen. Absolutely amazing kind of work at RealWear. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, and then we'll get on with some questions focusing on your, as I say, amazing work at RealWear. So please tell us a little bit about yourself and your work.
I know I've got that difficult last name too, so.
I was avoiding that, so.
I noticed. Yep, so I'm Kristen Naeini, a little bit of too many vowels in the last name, but that's how you say it. And I work over here at RealWear, based out of Vancouver, Washington, and I've been here almost 6 years, which, man, every year that ticks by is just unbelievable. You know, coming to a startup for the first time in my career, you never know how it's going to go. So I'm really happy to still be here. And I have the privilege of having North and South America under my responsibility. And so that means all things from our partners to our customers and our account executives and support team. Everybody's here to support the Americas. So that's what I'm doing over here.
Fantastic. Okay, well, let's get on with some questions. And we all know the situation in the market with the HoloLens and Microsoft dropping out. But we know they're actually turning to RealWear, which is really cool. So talk a little bit about what's driving that shift and how you're helping customers make that transition from, to assisted reality.
Oh, that's a good one. Are you hearing out there on your side too, a lot of buzz about this, or what have you gotten out there on your side?
Well, certainly, from an ecosystem perspective, we've got people that are looking for replacements. Yeah, mm-hmm. And like for like at the moment is not easy. There's not many companies out there doing kind of true augmented reality. So yeah, we're definitely hearing assisted reality when it's the right use case is of great interest. And we know RealWear is one of the leading players in there. So yes, I'm hearing a lot. I'm sure you can explain to us some of the kind of key things that you're seeing.
Yeah, definitely. It's crazy because it kind of all happened mid-January all at once. And we got a bunch of influx of, I would say, not only customers, but also partners, which we thought we might have to go out and do, some work and see where some opportunity would be to grow the business with those partners that were lacking, that solution. But they actually really started coming in to us and reaching out. So I would say it started there. I started getting a lot of email inbound and LinkedIn's and just straight up calls and saying, hey, we need to fill this gap. There's a couple of products that have fallen off the map lately for us, or we thought we would do more business and we're really not. And we're really getting a lot of requests for, hands-free solutions that are a little bit more simple. And so we started signing up some new partners, which that takes a while, to get traction, to get them trained up, to get them units. And so I think we're going to see that kind of move into execution and getting more units out with the partners coming the second half of the year. But then on the customer side, it was the same thing. It was either customers inquiring through who they originally purchased their HoloLens from. So those people started pinging us left and right. And then we got some customers straight up just finding us and saying, hey, look, I did a rollout with HoloLens. There was really high visibility on this project. That's kind of the common theme. We spent a lot of money showcasing, A, we brought it to the government, or B, we brought it into our executive corner and brought it to our C-suites. And now there's all these eyes on it. And now we really need to shift that project to a new solution. And out of everybody we're finding, you fit the niche. And so those calls have just been left and right. I think a big majority of the year actually so far, like I said, since January, has been revolving around this shift. So it's been pretty amazing.
That's really cool. And I guess going into that into a little bit more detail, for the people who don't know so much about RealWear, kind of talk a little bit about the key use cases and problems that you're solving. And that most important bit is buying the ROI, the return on investment. You talk about the C-suite, they want to, the technology is fine, but they want to understand the benefits. So talk about that from an assisted reality RealWear device perspective.
Yeah, I think also the background of this is everybody in this industry has experienced this at this point, but that's why it's super important to also make sure we have people in our ecosystem. For example, you're a great example of that. You've kind of built this reference in the industry where you understand the whole solution. You don't understand just one thing or one headset or one piece of software. So these partners that we're signing are really system integrators. They're offering full solutions, and that's helping with proving, showing, and deploying for ROI. If we just keep signing, box pushers or resellers that are just doing that, as we all have known by now, that's just a recipe for, I call it a red flag, that's not going to go well. So what we're doing is we're looking at where the HoloLens was used, whether it's behind the scenes, and we saw a lot of training classrooms and in practicals, right? And then going into who's using it out in the field, who's using it on the front line, and kind of looking at it in these two different lenses. And what we're finding is in the front line right now, there's been a lot of ROI showing in a couple of really key industries. I would say transportation really grabbed onto HoloLens, whether it be ground, air, maritime, and they went there for a lot of different use cases, but these have all been sort of shifting into taking that and putting into remote collaboration or remote training. So let me give you an example of that. I have one customer, I can't say their exact name, but they're a public transit company. And they were previously using other solutions like HoloLens, and they'd use it in the classroom. But then when you get them out there in the field, these new employees, they're going from, the old school way of doing things now to zero emissions, for example. And this is kind of new for everybody. We've got a lot of new components, a lot of new technology. So when they found they put them out in the field, they would have to keep calling up the trainers left and right after the training. Yeah. And so if they're able to use RealWear to then call back into the trainers and get eyes on the beat on the street of, what do we need to do, it's eliminating them from traveling to each location in the region. So as you know, you're going to be able to show ROI with quicker turnaround, less travel. You've got employees that can take calls and help from anywhere, and just calculating that time versus, no downtime, time with travel, and eliminating risk. This is pretty much our calculator for a recipe for success.
It's certainly the CO2 bit as well that you mentioned. I think that's big now for organizations, understanding their CO2 footprint and being able to reduce that.
Yeah.
It's interesting because transportation, I well know, is an industry that's really kind of gearing up, heating up and stuff like that. Can you maybe go into a little bit more detail and what's making these rollouts scale now? We've been what we called pilot purgatory for a number of years. It's a few devices, we get some really good intro, you get some really good interest. It's not scaling up to volume. Is there something you see that's changed, or is it, what is this scale up looking like for you guys?
Yeah, a lot has changed in the last year from what I've seen. I don't know if, you're seeing something parallel. There's a couple things. One, I don't know if I should go there, but I feel like sometimes politics plays a little bit of a field in our verticals. And where you're talking about the zero emissions, for example, grants were on hold and then they weren't. And there's a lot of drive for certain initiatives from a grant and a government perspective. That's created a shift. It's created buying shifts. As you know, we're dealing with things like tariffs, and we're dealing with things that very much impact the industry as a whole. But besides that, what seemed to have happened is that, you know, this whole buzz about AI and, you know, new tech, people really started to get on the tech bandwagon and change management bandwagon hardcore at the end of last year and the beginning of this year. And what that did was you would see in the beginning, all of these headsets would kind of just go like, here, IT department, figure out how we're going to do this. And here's another task on your list of 100 things you need to do. Yeah. And that would get lost in the mix, or it didn't have the correct backing to really drive success. So what we see now is companies are dedicating resources, and I think this is the biggest change we've seen. They're dedicating resources for process improvements with a technology baseline. So I'm not the expert in this space. I know you introduced us all as the experts. I don't know if any of us are really the experts in this space because it's a new space. Yeah. But, you know, we come from different backgrounds that have given us some insight into how this goes. And when you have the backing of, you know, you have a project manager dedicated, program manager dedicated, even a device manager dedicated, subject matter experts, champions, all of these people in your wheelhouse that are there to advocate for the project for not only the company's sake, but the what's in it for the user's sake. And they care about that experience. That's where you're going to see these pilots actually take form and scale. And that's been reflecting a lot in this past year.
And I think that's a great answer. I do think there's a combination of things that you've said in there. Budgets are becoming available in particular industries for innovation. That's kind of been a little bit of a bumpy journey. I think there's definitely a better education of people understanding this technology. When you get the leading CEOs of the biggest tech companies saying that, you know, augmented reality is going to be the way forward, kind of helps, but it's taken a fair old while. I think that AI and AR bit is really interesting. You know, we're kind of the AR and assisted reality bit is often the delivery of that information, but in a way that they can be hands-free and do kind of simple tasks. So I think that's another really interesting and good point. You know, but ultimately.
And I think we started and made this product very simple, and I think it's just getting more simple, which is great because a lot of times we see as technology advances, things get more difficult because there's so many things that you have, whether it be on your phone or your Ring doorbell. You can't even find or understand the whole conglomerate of everything it can do, right? So you kind of use your camera and you use it on auto and you don't dig deep. We get it. That's how users use products. So I love that about us, that we didn't get more complicated. We're only getting more simple. And I feel like that helps the industry in general just keep moving forward.
I agree. And I think that's a lovely place to finish, in that, you know, the simplicity of it is what's the greatest benefit, you know, and that allows users to use it. So Kristen, thank you very much indeed. Look forward to inviting you back as kind of RealWear continues to grow. I know there's some exciting times with the kind of management changes and things like that. So please keep up the great work. And, you know, thank you very much to all that RealWear does for the industry. And thank you for spending some time today.
Thanks, Mark. It was nice to chat.